So as I was preparing for this, I found myself, wondering, I'm always wondering who's in the room, like who's coming in here with a heavy heart or a hopeful heart, like who's going to be present? Who are these valiant women? These undoubtedly noble women, which is kind of a perfect description for any plight of any woman's movement since the inception of us recording history. These actions of women who will not be silenced to ensure equality and equity at this point, right? We're changing our language. Ultimately, like these women that I'm speaking about, she is you, I am her, are making moves, bravery, bold and courageous move, and sort of leaving our marks on history, whether we choose to believe it or not, by exhibiting courage, determination, and being heroic. It is the little things that are heroic. And being heroic in a time where sexism is extremely insidious, as is all the other, isms. They're finding new ways to express their craft while hanging on to some of those old tactics, as we see happening down in Georgia, as you guys talk about Ms. Abrams previously. As a matter of fact, thinking about today, right? As a woman, thinking about March 26th, if today was March 26, 1974, none of us would be able to have a credit card if we didn't have a husband. So shout out to the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. If today was March 26, 1978, any one of us could get fired for being pregnant. Shout out to the Pregnancy Discrimination Act. And if it was March 26, 1988, if any one of us wanted to get a business loan in some states, we would have needed a signature from a male relative to do so. Shout out to the Women's Business Ownership Act of 1988. So what has happened over time as women is we've taken our credit cards and went to college. We've taken our college education to Congress, courts, city councils, and communities, and have become decision and policy makers. And so on March 26, 2021, our spheres of influence have to reckon with the fact that each of us is boldly acknowledging our desire for power and influence. That's why we're here, right? That there's some level of a power influence that we want within ourselves, within our communities. And it's through our actions and our votes that we sort of demand our voices be heard, our bodies be protected, and our gangster respected. And so I ask of you ladies who will not be silent in this room as we move forward, what do you want? How you gonna get it? And why do you want it? We have sort of won this opportunity lottery in a way. I do feel like I've won the opportunity lottery by existing in this moment and recognizing that I am enough to change my world. And you are enough to change your world. As a matter of fact, like as I'm sitting here like thinking about the process, I need you to say this, and we're gonna pause for a second. I need you to say this with me. I'm absolutely 100%. So humor me. Humor me. Can you repeat after me? You don't have to come off mute. You can mouth it if you're in a quiet room where you don't want nobody to hear you say it, but say it loud as you can inside your head. I may not be able to change the world.
I may not be able to change the world.
But I am enough to change my world.
But I am enough to change my world.
Yes. And I just hearing you say that, Ms. Ivy, kind of gives me goosebumps, because by affirming and validating that we are enough, by shifting our own paradigms and reevaluating the scope of change to the world, we stop working from a permissive economy based on power and leadership that we already have. Fear and doubt be damned, but ever present. I'm gonna tell you that. The listening to the echoes of your words are they're ultimately shaping your inner voice, which is why I had to pause to have you say it, because I say it to myself all the time. Like, I'm changing my world. We are dictating our latitude. And so again, we ask ourselves, what do I want? Why do I want it? How am I gonna get it? Because that's what this is all about. it's about getting to your why. And I'll tell you, I found myself in the beginning of this journey trying to like get to why the heck am I doing some of this stuff? And I thought that it was because, well, I'm a mom now. But I didn't realize that motherhood was like chock full of failure and success. I didn't realize how spastic that was. And so I sort of took this journey of traveling through my origin story. And I say it's just that. It's just an origin. It's just the beginning, right? I'm still creating this path. Now I grew up in a house with 5 children. Bless my mother, right? I was the middle child by far. So I do have middle child syndrome. So forgive me or don't. It's okay. It's how I show up. I was the middle child by far, right? I was the 2 years younger than the youngest of the oldest and 3 years older than the oldest of the youngest. And I'm gonna tell you, they tag team me a lot. They upset me all the time. And I found myself, I was always using F word a whole bunch, a whole lot. So much so that I'm sure my mother was like, stop. I was being told, though, that there was no such thing as fair. And I saw you laughing, Miss Abby. You thought I meant the other F word. I meant fair. I meant fair. And I remember asking, why, like, there's no such thing as fair. I remember asking, then why does it even exist? Why would this word even exist if there's no such thing? Is it like a dinosaur where it did exist and now it's extinct? Somebody explained this to me as a child, and say that to say that I got in a lot of trouble for my rebuttals. And if you ask my husband today, that still hasn't changed. It's still a problem. I oftentimes receive consequence for my extra words rather than my actions. And so I'm learning the power of my voice. I learned that fairness, it's subjective and relative to every single individual. There's no fairness meter. And I think all of my life, I sort of tried to create these sort of situations where things were fair. But as I grew older, I understand that fairness, it's not equitable no matter how you voice it. And so I had to pivot. And so I'm in a place now where I'm not necessarily looking for fairness. Like I'm not out searching, but I'm looking for justice. When you're looking for justice, unfortunately, it doesn't really leave space for silence. It doesn't. And so I was being told like, yeah, Jack, you talk too much and you don't mind your own business. As a matter of fact, in 2nd grade, I had a teacher, her name was Mrs. Bell. And Miss Bell, she comes to me while we were doing those standardized tests. If some of you guys remember, like where you have to fill in the bubbles. And I remember her looking over my shoulder, or she called me up to her desk and told me bring my Scantron. And she saw me filling in the bubble for my name. And she said, what is that right there? What is that? I said, it's the initial for my middle name. And she was like, oh, H. What does that stand for? I said, Hope. She said, well, I hope you stop talking in my class. And she was the first person in my life to give me a C on my report card. I got a C in conduct. And I was told, MYOB, Jackie, mind your own business. All the time. Furthermore, it may sound very down, but I think she did this because she loved and cared for me, because I had not mastered the skill of understanding when to speak and when to shut up, and how powerful both of those things was. She gave me love, and she gave me the gift of being firm, but being fair. My problem then came in not minding all my own business. And how could I stop calling attention to things when they're right, when they're wrong, or when they're just flat out interesting? It's not in my nature. In fact, it's a part of my creative spirit, which I've learned to love and grow. It took some time. Oftentimes I feel like there are people, I'm working in communities, and there are people who are looking for me to get in their business. Maybe that's my imagination, but that's what I feel like. They're looking for me to get in bed, because I truly don't believe in the theory of the voiceless, only the overshadowed, the undervalued, the suppressed, the oppressed, the people holding on to hurt, a problem, or a brilliant solution. And in my heart, I know that people like you and us, they're the ones that they want to get their nose. They want us to take out our nose and get it in their business. They want us to open up our big mouths and say something with them or for them. Now, unfortunately, you might not believe this. You may not believe this, but I'm shy by nature. I am. But there is something about conflict, good, bad, or indifferent, that makes a different side of me step up. I'm very sensitive. I cry a lot. This work hurts my feelings a lot. And so I work really, 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 really hard on my inside voice. You know, this journey of self-talk, right? I learned that I will be labeled by people that love me and loved by people that don't even know my middle name. I learned that there's consequence for every single word I choose to utter and every conflict that I choose to enter. And with that knowledge, as a teenager, I went on this journey of trying to fix it. Because that's what we do sometimes, right? When people constantly telling us there's something wrong with us or they don't like some attribute of us, we try to fix it or dampen it. But as my grandma would say, like, let people alone. Okay, I'm gonna leave people alone. But then trauma struck. In December of the senior year of my senior year of high school, I found myself the unlikely student council president, the unwilling homecoming queen. I swear I didn't want it. And a new statistic of sexual assault, rape. My trauma reignited this plight, my mission and my value of justice. I said, I'm gonna make justice my, you know what, I'm gonna make it. I didn't have a solid case, but I had intel, which led me to believe that I'm not gonna be first. I wasn't the first and I wasn't gonna be the last. As with most of these things that we're trying to deal with in our communities, we are not the first and we most certainly won't be the last. So I got my big mouth out and took my big old nose and got all up in other people's business and found 2 other victims. While me and these 2 other victims, we share the same story. All 3 of us did not. Actually, we shared almost the exact same story. We didn't all receive justice. 2 of us did receive justice. The one of us that didn't was Black. And I learned that while justice is not, it's not necessarily, it's not blind, and that it's served to who it sees. And in that, I accept social responsibility, what many of you probably do just by being here today. You feel some sense of social responsibility, using your voice to influence the government, to influence people. For me, especially women, right? Black people, little citizens. Those are my things. What are yours? Because in this work, you have to be able to see yourself in order to fix yourself. And I saw a lot about myself that was going down the wrong way, and I had to fix it. And I learned over time that leadership is a heavy charge. It is for every last, whether you're leading a toddler or you're leading a classroom full of students or you're leading a project, it's a heavy charge. And the fact of the matter is that none of us get to choose whether or not we're an influence. We don't get to do that. We don't even get to choose how people feel about what we do or how they respond to it. But I'll remind you that voicing is a verb. And that's part of that journey of exercising that verb. Part of that journey that I took towards figuring this out, because it's hard work. It's hard work, but it's hard work. I start looking at when is it hardest for me to lead? Now, undoubtedly, some of you guys can switch this with something else. I found that my most difficult time was when I was on my period. It's hard. And you could say, I had a friend of mine tell me, well, what about leading when you're going through menopause? That part too. Right? Leading during that time, having something happening to myself that's so natural, but being told it's so unnatural and it's not to be spoke of. Understanding that there are things happening inside of me that I don't necessarily have control of, but being told I need to manage that. I started really redefining what it meant to lead in the most difficult time on my cycle. And what I do is I go around my house and I tell everybody, I'm just letting you guys know, hey, I'm on my cycle. You got it. I'm not making any big decisions for the next 3 to 5 business days. And I'm going to ask for your empathy. I need it because my patience that I usually have, it's not here. And I remember being on a business call with a gentleman and he asked me, he says, Jackie, you're a little different. I said, yeah. I said, no, I'm good. And then he's like, no, something's off. I said, you know what? I'm on my period. He said, wow, thanks for letting me know. I said, because you're having a difficult time and it's not of you, and I'm going to lean on you to make some decisions. I'm going to lean on you to do some things. And so I came up with these, based off that, came up with these 4 rules of engagement for myself. And I'm going to encourage you guys to realize when it's most difficult for you to do the work with what you're doing, what are your rules of engagement, so that I can lean on that instead of react in the moment. So my first rule of engagement was, I don't expect what I can't inspect. So I'm not asking you for nothing that I can't follow up and look at. I'm going to communicate to you my expectation, communicate to you my values, why it's important. I might even give you some resources if I have them, right? And create a space for you to come back to me and work with me on whatever that is. Don't ever expect anything that you cannot inspect. Defined, measurable standards, especially when we're doing work in our own communities. Number 2, that character through prosperity and adversity. Now, my family had to come up, we did this thing where we're like, let's come up with our family mantra, and this was it. And I didn't realize how vital it was going to be in my everyday work. So character through prosperity and adversity, because I used to be scrappy. I fought. I know it doesn't look like it, but yes, I would fight a lot. I thought that physical violence was the way to solve problems, and that's the best way to convey my frustration. And I had to realize that I am allowing myself to come up out of myself in a moment. And as I got older, fighting at the, verbally doing verbal judo with people. Sometimes I don't need to do verbal judo, right? This is not the way. This is not the way. What is your character? Through adversity and prosperity. It's not making permanent decisions on temporary feelings. Not letting people bring the best out of me because I'm passionate about what I'm trying to do. I recite this to myself as a reminder in the moment. And I ask myself again, character, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do not kill anyone. And I say, what do you want, Jackie? Why do you want it? And how are you going to get it? All right, it's not through this. Saying this to homeboy it's not going to get you what you want. So keep it moving. All right. So my third thing that I do is I trust but verify. And so oftentimes we find ourselves, blindly following people. And I know that we get these great people who do amazing things, and we want to just trust that they're going to do that thing that they said they're going to do. We inherently default to truth. We trust people's goodness and let their goodness sort of guide us and think it's going to guide us to the right place. Well, I'm here to tell you that trust, that word trust, is just a suggestion of good faith. And so the action that we must do is verify, ensuring that that intention will be honored. And that when we are doing work with folks, is that yes, we do want to trust, but we want to verify. And it allows us, and it allowed me, which I've done personally, to avoid blind allegiance and to avoid losing my critical thinking when we're trying to do good work for ourselves, for our community. And the last thing, number 4, that I do now that I'm learning is nothing's ever personal. I'll say that again because I need to go look in the mirror. It's a mirror right here. Nothing's ever personal. Okay. Years ago, I read this book called The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, which it sort of reveals this source of self-limiting beliefs that rob us of creating joy and needless suffering in our lives. It really guided me in a way that I never expected. And it actually hit me really, really hard when I was in traffic and I got cut off by someone. Now, initially, I say, I want to go off. But I realized that woman in that black Jeep Wrangler license plate, I'm just kidding, that she don't know me. She doesn't know. She didn't say, you know what, there go Jackie Glass. Let me cut her off. She's doing okay, right? But it can feel very real, right? Especially in community engagement, especially when we're trying to do things. Things can feel very, very personal. So my passion introduces me to people all the time that I think will, and if you're doing the work, you're going to be introduced to people all the time. Some of us are, we're meeting for the first time right now. But we're forever going to be judged by people that think they know you. They think they know, they have this idea, you judging me and I'm judging you. And there may be people who may already have a problem with you because of your passion, because of your ambition, because of your influence. We must realize that you can get personal with us because they don't know us personally. So as I said before, that's really hard because I'm hypocallous. That's my way of saying I'm extremely sensitive. So I'm hypocalyc to the highest level on things. And two, I think it's my military experience, which has allowed me to really think about how I deal with this work. And I want to share something with you guys that from my time on active duty, I was a cryptologist, and one of the things we had were we had when there was a threat coming in, like that wasn't time to think about it. You can't be like, well, there's a missile coming. What should we do? That doesn't work, right? That's how we end up getting killed. We had these things called PPRs, pre-planned responses, that we had to learn and know by heart. It was like, if you see this threat, here is how you respond. If you see this threat, here is how you respond. And you work. You call in the right people, you pull in the right resources and do it. And because like I know that I can be very short-tempered or very sensitive in time, I had to develop my PPRs, right? What is my pre-planned response to me getting on my spouse's nerves, him responding to that, but me taking it personal? You know, I start singing my response on Broadway, in Broadway terms. It's like, you have upset me today. I don't know why. Why, you know, like finding my response to de-escalate the situation to get back to work, because we work in moments. If you're doing this community work, as many of the women said, if you're working with folks, you're working in moments. So what are your pre-planned responses to the things you already know out here in these streets will trigger you, or that you find very difficult? Because I do find it very difficult when someone says, I work with people that sometimes say the blacks, right? That's a trigger for me. Why are you saying the blacks? And so in my head, I say 3 times. My pre-planned response to that is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do not kill anyone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do not kill it. 3 times I say that, and I say, well, you know, there's probably a better way to say that. You know, the article that you're using in front of that noun, which is a proper noun, let's capitalize Black, it's just not, that's not how we communicate in 2021. Let me help you. So having your pre-planned responses, recognizing that we live in a world that moves with a sense of purpose, and that as individual, we walk paths that make us feel like our truth is the truth, our right is the right, our wrong is the wrong. We must not forget that we live on a spectrum, that we inherently desire accountability, justice, morality on a spectrum. Your voice, my voice, is an action to not determine what justice, morality, or accountability is for other people's as individuals. But as I think Jennifer said earlier, it's to read about it, write about it, talk about it, help create benchmarks that allow us to set ourselves and our communities up with governance and community rules, whatever that is, that ensure equity. And I think sometimes I think I'm in the wrong business. Honestly, I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, because I don't know why you chose to do this. Because I'm on an emotional roller coaster when people don't live to the clear standards that we set out for ourselves, or deem themselves immune from these standards. As a Black woman, I will tell you that's the lens that I'm seeing this work through, and you may see it different, and I respect that. And with that lens, I have these insecurities that I have to remind myself that white men are not smarter, white women are not inherently more beautiful, that the measure of strength is not just in muscle, that anger, my anger, is a form of meditation for me, and that my tears refresh my memories to move forward with a growth mindset. I encourage you, as I do myself, to recognize that voice and village are a verb, and we need both. We need both. So pick your battles. You're gonna have to lead, follow, or get out the way. And that if in fact you are a woman with ambition, and that ambition makes people uncomfortable, I urge you not to deny that ambition or call it something else other than what it is. It's about self-assuredness and self-awareness. Women's History Month is not about taking control over other women. It's not about taking control over men. It's about having control over our own life and having a say to contribute to the greater good of our communities, our voice, and our vote. And if I've learned one thing about being a valued woman, is that we need to know the rules and when to follow them and when to break them. And acknowledge that if desperation is the mother of innovation, then ignorance is its father. And that if silence is golden, then the sound of your voice is platinum. Nay, vibranium, because that's bigger, right? Vibranium. We shift the trajectory of our generations through our voice and vote. So we have to choose to stop just fighting and start fixing. And if people don't want to fix with us, then we start building. And if that means we have to take a C in conduct, then we do it, so be it, and move on. And we ask ourselves, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? And we affirm how we're going to get it and move on. And so I say to you guys again, I am Jackie Glass. I talk too much and I don't know how to mind my own business. And I'm in the business of both of those things. And I want to express gratitude to all of you for sharing this time with me.